Hi, thank you for taking time to watch this video. Here I talk about dealing with office politics, an interesting question that one of my followers sent in. Now, office politics is something that a lot of us, if not all of us, have encountered in one way, shape, or form. And to be honest, it's something that drives a certain level of frustration because it brings about situations or scenarios where less than optimal results are realized. We need to start by first acknowledging that every environment has its politics. And that's usually one of the greatest challenges that anyone who is encountering politics has to contend with. Thinking that the environment is perfect or operating as though it's an ideal place to be. The heart of politics, if you ask me, starts with individuals. Individuals and their biases. Okay? So every individual has got a bias. They've got a preference on how they want things done. They've got a perception on who perhaps they work best with. They have a need to be recognized, an ego. All of those are factors that you cannot completely detach from any human being. And that really is the heart of the issue, that every environment is dependent on people, and people by nature are not perfect. And so if they are not perfect, then there will be imperfections in the environment that they then create. So the first thing is to acknowledge that politics are everywhere. Once you acknowledge that, it starts to give you a peace of mind that actually it's not you who's causing the problem. It may be, but in a lot of instances, it might not. So what then, after you realize that this is a reality that you have to contend with? I think you must then start to think about how you understand those politics, how you better get to appreciate what is actually happening. It's a bit of a difficult thing to do, but are you able to take a bird's eye view of your environment? Just absorb what is happening. Who does what? What behaviors drive certain outcomes? Despite what is written as the policies and procedures, what actually gets things to move or get things done? What are the preferences of those people who are in authority or who are more responsible for developing or nurturing the environment and culture within you, which you operate? That is step 2. You understand, or first you acknowledge, then you understand. Then when you understand what drives the politics, the biases, the preferences, you name it, you must then say to yourself, how do I bring these to a place where they can be measured objectively? So if, for example, you feel that a superior has a certain tendency regarding how they want things done, a different one also has their own preferences on how they want things done. You go to one person, you do it this way, it's acceptable. You go to another person, you do it a different way, it's not acceptable. All right? You have to make a choice and a decision. To understand what the preferences and biases are. If it's not too much stress, is it something that you can do and something that you can live with? Okay? If the biases go beyond things that simply relate to work and preferences about how things should be done, what does it mean for you? All right? I don't want to use the term, but there's a term, playing politics. Okay? Now, this is an area where you have to be very, very careful, because you then start to behave in order to get a certain outcome. You start to try to engineer certain outcomes based on what you've observed. Remember, the reason why you observe is to see if you can then distill the factors that are influencing your environment into something tangible that can be codified as either objectives or clear measures that then remove the subjectivity from the environment. If that's not the case, if you find that the environment is dominated by politics through and through, more so than it is work, what does that mean for your own ability to perform optimally in that environment. What does it mean if you can't simply get on with doing your work and be comfortable that the standard that you deliver is aligned to the key performance indicators that have been agreed and what you've agreed to do perhaps in your job description or what your roles and responsibilities say? It's not an easy one to navigate. And if you get to a point where the politics dominate everything, is that the right environment for you? That's an honest question that must be asked. So, to recap, number one, acknowledge politics are everywhere. Okay? Failure to acknowledge that will simply breed frustration. Politics are everywhere because they're driven by people, biases, preferences, you name it. And people are not perfect. You acknowledge, then seek to understand what drives these politics. What does it mean for me? How do I react and respond? Are the demands of a highly politicized environment excessive for your own standards? If they are, perhaps it's an environment that is not suitable for you. So these politics, you then say, is there a way to neutralize them? Okay? Now I know this is a bit controversial, but that's what I think. Is there a way to neutralize them? How? Focus on what needs to be done and try and get the buy-in of those who drive those politics to agree to whether it's a plan of action or measurable targets, KPIs, whatever removes the subjectivity from the environment. That tends to help. If that's not feasible, perhaps you need to think about other options. So hopefully that gives you a bit of food for thought. I expect this one to be a bit controversial. Let me know what you think, and as always, we can carry on the conversation slightly later. Thank you very much.